We as a community owe it to ourselves to be honest and provide feedback when we see areas in which we can improve. Today, we do just that. Welcome back to Geeks First, where we talk about all things TCG. I'm your host, Jacob. This video is going to be a bit different, so stay a while and listen. It'll probably be a bit on the longer side too, so note, I highly recommend that you don't take any one section out of context during this video, and if you skip around, my heartfelt reason for this entirety of the video might be missed, thus going into what I am trying to say, and you might miss what I'm looking for. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Section 1. A look back in time. I've been in the TCG community for years. Heck, I remember back in high school going to my LGS and counting down the days to the latest and greatest, newest sets, hoping to tinker toy with the new tech. And the release of the latest MTG or Yu-Gi-Oh sets were always exciting for me to look forward to, especially when I knew very little about the whole set of basically that time, and remembering being amazed at the big brain combos that people were discovering. And people right at my same table, even across from me, I was intently listening as they played and their playstyles evolved. In other games, cards were read, combos and good and bad decisions all were discovered firsthand and in real time. As we drafted and played the latest MTG set, and if I think correctly it was Mirrodin, so circa 2003, the magic of discovery was in the air, and that feeling of joy and laughter was echoing in the game stores. This feeling is one that I would never want to take away from anybody, and I highly encourage you to experience this firsthand. Let's fast forward a couple years, and the advent of the internet has changed our lives in profound ways, i.e. how you even consume games, spoilers, such as watching this on YouTube or reading this if it was in a magazine. Similarly, online play has become synonymous with a game that has basically a dedicated following from a community, and that's great for a lot of reasons. So let's dive into a bit of a history. Let's look at a game called Star Wars CCG, a game from Decipher. You may not know about Star Wars, the customizable card game, or acronym SWCCG. It is an out-of-print card game that was based on the Star Wars fictional universe and was created by Decipher Incorporated back in 1995 and lasted until circa 2002. The game was maintained by the Star Wars Players Committee, and with virtual cards being released every few months, the capability to play in both person and online was aided by an online client. GIMP, or GEMP-SWCCG, is an online digital client which allows for live gameplay to be played by fans all over the galaxy. Now, you might have never heard of SWCCG, and that's fine, but maybe you have heard of what I'm about to mention, Talishar, formerly Flesh and Blood Online. Section 2. The Digital Era. Now, you may know where this is going, and if not, I'll elaborate. Talishar is an online client that allows players of Flesh and Blood to play online with folks all over the world. I've personally used this application to get a few games in with a coworker who lives in another state. I see the value of this application versus, say, a webcam game setup, which is technically the old school way to play remote. I haven't done this in years, but with many games, that was a way you would play prior to a dedicated client for a dedicated game. Talishar is a well-crafted and open source client which I do commend for what it is intended to fill in, a gap in online play. But there is also a looming problem that we do need to address. The magic of outsiders for me is not going to be ruined, and I am not the target for this video. I, for one, won't play a game on Talishar Online before the official release, but others have, and to me, that's the core of the problem. Let me explain. There will be two clear camps here, so without further ado, let's dive in and remember to be nice to each other because we're a community and this is just a discussion, so don't attack folks that have a different opinion than you. Section 3. Schools of Thought. Camp numero the first. The cards, as they are spoiled, should be available as soon as possible so that the hardcore deck techers and pro-level players can get their reps in and be as prepared as possible to win that cheddar, bacon, moolah, or, well, you get that. Camp numero the dos. Cards should not be played online until after the official release of the cards in person. That is especially since this game, the game I love, is still a live, not dead TCG. And number 2, the game, for all intents and purposes, is the literal embodiment of in-person play. Quote, "Our mission is to bring people together in the flesh and blood through the common language of playing great games." So let's discuss that time, okay? Data is powerful, and data runs the world. The more data you have, the more likely you are to have a strategic advantage over somebody who does not, which is why in this day and age, big data is where corporations spend millions of money into R&D. Now, more often than not, this can lead to unfair advantages in businesses, and this is how you differentiate yourself, and provide services to people who want to pay, and that's how you discover patterns that others have not seen. Now, for TCGs, this can come in the form of knowledge in the pool of cards, which gives you a distinct advantage over people on like a pre-release weekend, which is where prizes and awards that are worth real-life money are on the line. Now, this can be taken in many ways. So some players are just going to be naturally good at the game, and the nature of them is to see the combos that others cannot, or find lines of play that take others weeks or months to develop. This is great for them, but it has real-world consequences for people who get thousands or hundreds or even a few reps in before the rest of the normies like myself. Now, while I digress, the point about big data is actually important. Section 4, a heartfelt love of TCGs. But that's not what this video is actually about, and while the client is great, let's focus on the magic of the new set that's being released and the impact of thousands of games happening weeks before release. For me and many others across the world, the magic that may have been spoiled without any of my choice of my own is because the possibility that a local player at your armory has repped hundreds, if not thousands of games, that's a figure of speech by the way, in trying to figure out the meta, because in coming in with bows slinging or kadachis ablazing, you're going to be at a disadvantage, which means that you probably won't have the best odds at the top tables, thus affecting your ability to potentially win any prizes in pool, which is real money on the line if you really want to go after these highly sought after promos, or good prize pool if your LGS pitches in additional prize support. Now, this isn't a fault of anyone specifically, and I'm not mad at Talishar, so please, seriously, don't take this as an attack, don't boycott their service. This is just a public service announcement. What I'm really hoping for is to drive the point home that this fundamental shift of how we access our cards before others, and how new players who are not as plugged into the Matrix, flesh and blood online community, that's you on the other side. So like, share, subscribe, and hit that bell for more content. What I like to say is that, as an example, the Tall Timmy, go listen to his thoughts on this exact topic, are well in the right state of mind. Talishar does need to stay in its own lane, and I agree with almost everything he said. Otherwise, LSS can and will most likely take that amazing tool offline. Talishar exists in a morally gray area that we do really kind of deep dive in and see what this client really might need. However, it's right now letting the genie out of the bottle, and I don't know if we can put that back in. Because it's out of the bag, we'll see how this impacts pre-releases worldwide, because this set has been basically available for players to play online for the majority of since spoilers came out circa 3 or 4 days ago. Now, many players worldwide will probably be at a huge disadvantage at pre-release, and that in itself is enough of a good reason for me to make this video. And right now, as I make this, I look over and I've seen 60 concurrent games that are playing online, and of those 60 games, 30 or more seem to be the new heroes and most likely involve a lot of the new cards. Now, to wrap up this very long video, and after fully soaking in 3 amazing days of exciting action-packed spoilers, I'm pumped to play a real, in-the-flesh, life event, Outsiders pre-release here in my hometown. I'm going to 3 of them, and I've been daydreaming of combos and things I'd like to try. Heck, I even have a video that's going to come out and review all of the spoilers, but I have just been so busy with some other items, and this took precedence over that, so that's why this is coming out first. And that's the point. Daydreaming, imagining, like the days of old where you were writing on cards, scribbling on the back, getting pieces of paper, getting scratch combos and putting it together and physically dealing those cards out and seeing how it play out in real life is much more fun than the seemingly infinite possibility of all these games online 24/7 weeks before a pre-release where now I am at a disadvantage. Now, this is not me trying to complain, but I know that there will be players out there that this is their absolute first foray into Flesh and Blood. This will be their first pre-release that they have ever been to. And all I can say is, please, if you see that, don't use your knowledge to your advantage. Don't let them win, but make sure you educate them. Really, the whole set was spoiled in 3 days, and that was amazing to watch. And I love to listen to all the videos that were created by these different content creators, and I highly recommend that you go back and take time to support them and watch those videos as well. Thank you so much for your time and letting me speak my mind on this topic that I am extremely passionate about. And once again, to reiterate, this is not a boycott. This is not an attack. I don't want you to go out and be a social justice warrior. I just wanted to convey my deepest, heartfelt sympathy about where I stand on the topic of cards being available digitally online in the game of Flesh and Blood before the official physical cards exist in the real world. Until next time, may your games be fun and your friendships grow. Cheers. And have a hell of a time at your Outsiders pre-release. Thank you.
Digital client, countdown, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Now, what's interesting about that is that my phone died. My phone is dead.